It's Monday morning, and we are so happy you've decided to start the week with us. We're talking comic books again this week. I know last week it was all video games. Landmark episode number 50 last week, and we didn't talk about comic books at all. Because that's kind of what we do around here. We do whatever we want, and sometimes maybe it doesn't make sense. This might not make sense to you either. Matt, I'm going to tell you a number. 8.2 million. Any significance? He's stumped.
Is it in relation to our topic? We didn't talk about our topic, but it's going to be the X-Men, I'm assuming.
That is the number of copies sold of the best-selling comic book of all time. 1991's X-Men number 1. We are talking about the glory days of the X-Men, which, I think our opinions will differ as to when the golden age of the X-Men ends. And I'll tell you, my golden age is not the golden age in comic book terms. But this is part one of a two-parter. We're gonna talk about all the things we love about the X-Men in this episode, and then next week we're gonna roll it back. We're gonna do our Invincible episode next week for April. And then when we come back after Invincible, it's gonna be another X-Men topic. I don't want to spoil what that one's gonna be. But today we're talking about how much we love the X-Men, maybe how important the X-Men are. I don't know. We'll get in. We're gonna see where the conversation takes us. Matt, I'll let you pour the foundation on this one.
For sure. So yeah, we're going to talk about X-Men today. I find the X-Men, for how popular they have become and were, especially in the 1990s, it wasn't necessarily always that way. And as the resident history scribe, I guess, on the podcast, I have to take us back sometimes. I don't want to belabor you listeners with a bunch of information, but the X-Men originally, obviously they were created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in 1963. Originally, the book was going to be titled The Mutants, but Martin Goodwin, who was the publisher of Marvel and oversee a lot of the early creation of the Marvel universe, he turned that down. He told Stan Lee, no one's going to know what a mutant is. So that's why they were given the name the X-Men after, obviously, Charles Xavier. If you've seen any of the movies or anything like that, that's why they were called the X-Men. The book went on for about 67 issues. I knew this, but kind of forgot. The book went on for 67 issues, but was dropped because primarily it's difficult making a team book. If you make Spider-Man, you have him, you have his kind of rogues gallery. When you have a team book, even like Fantastic Four, you have a lot of different characters with a lot of different motivations going on. So that was harder to create kind of narratively. So they dropped the book for 67 issues, and then it actually went on, the original kind of volume went on to 93 issues, but 67 through 93 were actually reprints of the old material. So
I never knew that.
Yeah, so there was a gap, 67 to 93 are all reprints.
So they just reprinted old stories for 3 years?
I didn't know it was that. I knew there was a reprint time in there, but I did not know it was that long.
That's a long time.
Reprints. Just kind of
those are those are the OG facsimile editions.
Pretty much.
They're the first facsimiles.
Pretty much.
All right. Do you collect old X-Men at all?
I might have to start with 67 through 93.
I feel like 67 through 93 would be your wheelhouse there.
That's my wheelhouse. That's my sweet spot where I got to get in at. So, yeah.
Does that have all the original ads from 1963?
Probably.
1964.
It should.
1965.
I mean, I don't know why I'm getting shot across my bow right now, but yeah. So
I know I'm starting early, not even 5 minutes in yet.
Yeah, we're not 4 minutes into the steal.
Picking up where I left off last week.
For sure. But I think the X-Men era that really started it, I could not find funny you should say that. I could not find my facsimile edition, so I had to get my omnibus I have here. Started with Giant Size X-Men, number 1 in 1975. This was written by Lynn Wein and Dave Cockrum, and that kind of started the X-Men that the X-Men team that we kind of know and love a little bit from the movies, those characters.
Isn't
So
his name Len Wein? Isn't it pronounced wine? Like the
I think it's
drink
Ween.
wine?
I've heard Ween.
Really? Hmm.
Len Wein, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Uh, so
Sorry
that's
for the
the X-Men.
sidebar. I mean, interrupt.
No, 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 man.
I've never heard it said Ween before, so that made my Spidey sense go off.
I listened to well played. I listened to a lot of stuff, so I've always heard it Ween. I've
Fair
heard it
enough. No,
both ways,
dude,
but
I
Ween
trust you more
is.
than me because you're the historian, and
I like
I am the guy that does not want to go that far back into the bins.
no, I understand. So I just wanted to do a brief history lesson. I kind of want to turn it over to you, Dave. Like, why are the X Men important to you? Because I mean, I can talk about why they're important to me. I'll obviously we'll go there, but I'm just curious. I rambled for a little bit. Like, why is this group important to you, just in
So,
general?
in a, I don't know. I guess the easiest way to answer that question is to answer why I liked the X Men so much
Yeah,
as a kid,
yeah,
because I don't think they became important to me kind of retroactively, I think. But in the moment, like to describe 90s comic books, especially from the big two, from Marvel and DC, I think the best word to use would be badass.
yeah.
Everything had a very badass aesthetic. Big muscles, tight suits, just giant guns. Everything was sort of over exaggerated. The art style was extremely slick, and they had word balloons nowhere to be seen in some issues. I mean, it was all splash pages. It was very style over substance, and everything was badass. And the most badass of them all was Wolverine.
Yeah.
Wolverine made so many people love the X-Men. And I think X-Men number one, to go back to X-Men number one again, it benefited from coming out at a time where comic book prospecting was really starting to take off. You know, and probably 2 million of those 8.2 that were sold were people just buying multiple copies that they were going to save for 40 years and then sell and retire on because that's what everyone thought they were going to do in the 90s. You know, they bought all these key issues like the Death of Superman, people buying 15, 20 copies of it for no reason because none of that stuff's worth any money now. But I don't know, man. There's just something about the X-Men. They were different than all of the other superheroes that Marvel was putting out and all of the other teams. And, you know, they were sort of on the fringe. They were a little weird. They were also, they were so different. And they had
Yes.
some of the weirder and sometimes cooler power sets. You know, they were just like the cool kids of Marvel. If you wanted to be popular and be cool, man, you hung out with the X-Men. And you know, the Avengers wasn't doing well then, and you know, Fantastic Four was, you know, they did a lot of weird stuff in the 90s with the Fantastic Four. You know, Thing wore a mask for a really long time because Wolverine scratched his face, and then they, you know, there was just there's a lot of weirdness going on. There was the jackets era; they're all wearing like leather jackets. Fantastic Four, and I don't know, but X-Men, man, X-Men were cool.
They definitely were.
I know that's not an
Um,
eloquent way to put it, but
no,
that
that
really is the draw, man. They were cool.
they're definitely cool. One thing you talk about, yeah, they were cool, but they were also different. And I want to just hit on X-Men, this X-Men team, the giant size team in particular, like reading that old material from like the 70s. I can't overstate, I guess, how groundbreaking it is to have such like a diverse team up of heroes as well, too. Um, Not that there's necessarily anything wrong with that, but the original X-Men incarnation, Jean Grey, Angel, Cyclops, Iceman, Professor X, I might be forgetting one other person. They were all kind of like that John White bread. They're all the all American,
Mm-hmm.
all white team. This giant size team, you got Logan, Wolverine, Canadian, Storm, she's from Africa, Nightcrawler's German, Colossus is Russian, Banshee was Scottish, Sunfire was Japanese. Like we need to like hit on it at some point, but it's like one reason I like GI Joe a lot too. Yeah, they're all American, I guess, but the team is multi like national, and I
Hmm.
love just like that multinational team of like just different people from different backgrounds. And I really also appreciate like differences of thought, like not even like skin color divide or country divide, a difference of thought. Like Sunfire is so he thinks so differently than all of the other members of the X-Men. He's like so hot-headed. I believe like two issues after Giant Size X-Men, that dude pieces out and just leaves the team. Like he's just like, I'm out. And like I believe the second issue, Thunderbird, he dies. Like, and there
Hmm.
was like stakes in this book. And that's one thing that I really appreciated, like kind of looking back. I think another thing that I latched onto, and I don't really push my identity that much. But there is something, and I think Stan Lee is credited with this, and it wasn't really Stan Lee in those original issues. I think it was more when you get to Chris Claremont and the later, writers. They really started to push kind of the outsider approach. Like that was in the original book, but not to the level of Chris Claremont. And especially, I think they kind of fell into it, like this dichotomy. You heard a lot of like Martin Luther King, Professor X, or Martin Luther King, Malcolm X kind of dichotomy between Magneto and Charles Xavier.
I mean,
I think they
that's
kind of
good.
backed into it. They kind of like backed into that. Like that's the thing that I'm saying. Like Stanley gets credit for doing that. That was not the original intention of the book.
Really?
Later
See, I was going to
writers,
say, I thought that was
no,
the original intention of the
no,
book, that it was
no,
sort
no,
of
no,
written
no,
in
no,
response to some of the civil
no,
rights movement.
no. That came more like during the Claremont era,
Okay.
and you can tell by like, I mean, I think one of the best stories, and I really need to revisit. It's been a long time. I'm sure you've read it, but God Loves Man Kills. I don't know if you've ever read that
I
story.
haven't.
Oh my goodness, dude. Oh, it is a dark story. It was a one-shot story. Um no, it was like the original graphic novel, I want to say. And it's the motivation for the X2 X United movie with like William Stryker, and he's like a televangelist, and he's like, just I'm not doing this story any justice, but he's like a televangelist, and he is going out and he is like murdering mutants, and he is using religion to do so. It is a deep, deep book. Like I think one of the most important X-Men stories, and it sold really, really well. But like just that the X-Men book was not afraid to dive into like deep themes. And I guess I'm rambling now, but the other thing that I like about the X-Men was obviously anytime the connection of our friendship. Like when I got into comics, I was like, man, like I really like that X-Men, 90s cartoon. And you're like, well, here, try some of this X-Men. And this was like in the Utopia era of like Matt Fraction when they were out in San Francisco or whatever,
Hmm.
the Utopia era. And then that went to the whole Messiah complex, Messiah war, that whole thing in like the 2000s that involved Cable and Hope, and that is just some like really compelling X-Men stories. I know it's not the 90s stuff, but that was a good era of X-Men for
I
me, at
agree.
least when
I
I came
agree.
in.
Yeah.
Like it
No,
was
that
just very strong.
I think that stuff, Messiah Complex, and a few things after that. That was sort of the beginning of the end for me.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
I don't want to get. I don't want to be a downer. So I'm gonna
Let's go
walk
back to
it.
the 90s
I'm gonna
though. No,
walk it
no,
back a little bit.
no. Let's
Did you know? Hold up that Giants has X Men cover for me again.
giant size. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, it's a little shiny, but
it's okay.
I'll back it off
Do
for the
you know
camera
why
there.
Colossus is so prominent on that cover?
I do not.
Because initially he was planned to be the leader of this X Men team, and
Really?
then for whatever reason that didn't happen. But yeah, the cover was drawn and everything was set for Colossus to lead the Giant Size X Men team, and it just didn't happen. I forget the reason why, but yeah, he was supposed to lead
I
them.
mean, if you even look at it, he's like pointing, like he's up front,
Yeah,
like pointing, like a Captain
exactly.
of Captain America kind of stance, like leading the way.
Yeah,
My man Cyclops is way in the back here.
yeah.
That's interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, I don't. I'll need to go back and research why, because I don't. I think I saw it on TikTok or something. But
So
um,
yeah, and I've gone back and read, like, I haven't read all of this stuff, but I've read a lot of this Chris Claremont run. This stuff is, people talk about like this, Frank Miller's Daredevil,
mhm.
like seminal runs of comics. Like this stuff does hold up. The
Oh yeah,
art is really good. Like the storytelling was incredible. Chris Claremont was on this book from, the 1980s, even up to when that X-Men #1. He wrote the first 6 issues with Jim Lee, until he was kind of ousted off of the book. But that run that he had was just incredible, of creating X Factor. Oh my gosh, there's just so many seminal storylines that were in that era. But
absolutely. And even I have one behind me called Extinction Agenda,
yep,
which is one of my all-time favorite X-Men stories. I don't know if you've ever read it,
that's
but it was with
not the guy with
Genosha.
the metal horn. Is that Strike? Not Striker or something. Strife, isn't he
No,
in
that's
that?
Executioner's song.
Okay, no, I might not.
Extinction Agenda is uh, it has to do with the island of Genosha and the fact that mutants that live there are enslaved.
Yeah,
They don't have
yeah,
freedom. If you so it's I don't want to get too into the story details just in case anyone wants to read it or you do.
yeah.
But it's got like it happened near the end of 80s, early 90s. I forget exactly when, but phenomenal crossover. The one you were thinking of, Executioner Song, that's when um, Professor X is assassinated by what appears to be Cable of X Force.
Mm,
That poor man Cable. That dude's been the
it's
scapegoat so many times in his life.
he sure has. He
Um,
definitely has.
so when I think about the X Men, I always go back to the issues of Uncanny X Men, where they introduced characters like Bishop, and when Will's Portaccio was on the book, and all of those '90s crossovers like Extinction Agenda and Executioner Song, and um, this is not going to sound out of character. This is going to be very much a oh yeah, of course that's how you think. But one of the things that I really loved about X Men was that it was very regimented at the time. You had two teams. You had the blue team and you had the
Mhm.
gold team. And they didn't cross over all that often. You didn't have to keep track of like a million different books. You had the two X-Men books. You had X-Men and Uncanny X-Men. You had X-Force and Excalibur. Sometimes you had, like obviously Wolverine had an ongoing series for a very long time. Cable had one. Other characters have had ongoing series, but you really just had those four core X-Men books. Um, Man, it was just a beautiful time to be reading X-Men comics, in my humble opinion. But you mentioned it once already, that 90s cartoon, game changer. Obviously,
Yeah,
they're really popular in the comic book world, but a Saturday morning cartoon with the X-Men, that's when you start to broadly appeal. New people are finding out about the X-Men. And it was a really good cartoon. It it had death and it had real consequences and it they addressed like mature themes in a Saturday morning cartoon.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Um, I was just trying to find the showrunners because I listened to a podcast with them, and just like you said, they're like, we weren't trying to write to a children's audience. We were trying to write adult
Yeah.
stories, and it just so happened to be like a Saturday morning cartoon. That was Julia and Eric Lewald, I think, are the showrunners on it. Um, yeah, man, that's what got me. There's a couple things that got me in. That was definitely one of them. Everybody, dude, everybody knows that. Like
Yeah.
everyone who's an X Men fan knows that. You hit those notes and they know what that is. I know I sung that very poorly, but that's how you get people into the door. I also like that it appeared like, at least character model wise and the animation wise, they were playing off of the source material. The characters looked like the characters that Jim
Mm-hmm.
Lee from that, like the Gold Team era X-Men #1 kind of relaunch. So like when you have that kind of synergy, much like, like Invincible now that Dave loves, like it's very close to the book, but there are definitely some differences as well too. And that's all you're asking for is a fan or a diehard fan. You don't want to see the exact one for one representation. You want to see it some subtle differences. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Remember Morph
my man got they got my man so quick. They got Morph quick though. Wolverine,
created him for the cartoon just to kill him.
he was created for the cartoon.
Yeah,
I forgot
he
about
was not
that.
in the comics. He was a
Yeah,
I hated him because of that. I was like, why are they creating new characters for the cartoon? This guy sucks. He's so annoying. Then he died, and I was like, yes.
yes. But then you had to hear Logan cry about him for like the whole
Yeah.
like season. Like he's always talking about Morph.
Yeah. What about Morph?
Yeah,
Come on,
he's
man.
doing
Come
it for
on, Logan,
Morph,
dude. Come on. Why don't you just go hit on Gene? We all want to see
right?
that.
That's what everyone. That's what everyone's there for. All right, another huge thing we always talk about. It always comes back to it. It's our famous arcade game. Can
Mm-hmm.
you list the characters off the top of the dome?
Yeah, of
6.
course. You had
Get them.
Nightcrawler,
Yeah,
Colossus,
yeah,
Storm,
yeah,
Wolverine,
yeah,
Cyclops,
yep. If you got it,
Dazzler.
that's it. You got
Come
all
on.
6 of them.
Come on.
I just
Come on.
that game with that cartoon are so influential. Like I did some research because I told you they had taken it down. They put it out in 2010 on PSN, on PlayStation and Xbox, and they took it down in 2013. So yeah, dude, I remember buying that port on PlayStation and like playing that all the time. Like I just love that game so much. It's like it's so nostalgic for me. Like every place I go where I see that game, I want to play it. And
Dude,
it's
I remember
just
playing that as a kid in an arcade.
me too.
Just
I mean,
wasting quarter after quarter after quarter on that thing.
yeah, that would
My
do it.
grandma would take me to the mall so I could go play in the arcade. She'd give me a whole roll of quarters. She'd give me $10, a roll of quarters, and I would be in heaven.
For
Oh,
like 30 minutes.
yeah, it
For
didn't take long to go
like an
through a whole
hour.
roll of quarters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like that game has so much influence on my X-Men love, like in that team. Like it's crazy. Um Another big thing, I don't know if you remember some how big like the merchandising was for X-Men at the time. Obviously,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had all the action figures.
I wasn't even thinking that. I
Oh.
wasn't even thinking action figures.
Oh.
One of my favorite things is a fat guy. X-Men and their relative marketing or their marketing campaign with Pizza Hut, dude. That was a big. You could get a VHS tape.
Oh, yeah.
You could get there was two
Yeah.
promotions. You could get a VHS tape with a personal pan for like $4.99, or there was one that it was like there was 4 comic books that came out like bi-weekly. You get a personal pan, one topping. The reason I know this, I don't know. Personal pan, one topping, a comic book, and a collector's cup for $2.99. Yeah, adjusted for inflation, that's like $7. There's no way you're getting that value for $7
No. Dude, I
adjusted for
got Taco Bell
inflation.
over the weekend.
It's like
Dude,
15 bucks.
I got a bean burrito, a chalupa, some chips, and a drink, and it was like $14.
So I'm saying, there's no
What
way.
the hell?
I had a bad
And I didn't
inflation
get no
calendar.
X-Men comic books.
You didn't get a collector's cup either.
I barely even got a thanks, have a nice day.
That's what I'm saying. Like this was truly just like the glory days. Like it really was a great. I can see why it was a great time to be an X-Men fan.
Absolutely. Dude,
Um,
those action figures.
oh, dude, yeah,
Oh
you
my
need to. I
gosh.
forgot all about those.
Oh my
Those were
gosh.
super cool.
They were so cool. And they didn't they went deep into the comics
The
too. I
lore.
mean, they're doing action figures of characters that I
You're
could
getting a
only dream about
Sauron.
having. Yeah,
Sauron, you're doing
yeah.
it. Like you're
Yeah,
doing
it's
it, dude.
like that was the first line of action figures that I remember that was really aimed at fans of the comic book first.
Yeah.
I mean, that speaks to the cultural significance of the X-Men because it had permeated all levels of society. And this is before a movie had come out.
I know
You
that's
know,
right.
dominating
Yeah,
the toy stores. It was in the arcades. It was on Saturday morning cartoons. It was the best-selling comic book of all time. It dominated the sales charts week in and week out. You couldn't it was hard to not hear about the X-Men in the 1990s. It was really hard. And I'm sure there's probably stuff that happened, promotional
yeah.
stuff that we don't even never knew about or have forgotten about, or who knows.
I just remember the Pizza Hut. I remember the Pizza Hut thing, and I I also in my like 2 a.m. things when I'm up late at night and I watch old nostalgia videos. I remember they had a Chef Boyardee pasta with X-Men in it as well too, and
Really?
a commercial with Mr. Sinister. Yeah, dude. And it's like they got Beast, they got Storm, and he's like right where they belong in a can. Like, dude, it's great.
That's incredible.
I remember that pasta and having it, but like, yeah, it was just it permeated everything. It permeated everything.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I could talk we could do an episode about just the action figures because I've just got so many fond memories of like
Dude,
hunting
I
those things
completely forgot
down. And
about that.
like I took them all out of the package. I didn't care.
So I had like one last piece of merchandise I want to touch on that I didn't really get into. But did you collect any of those cards by any chance?
Bet your ass
Because
I did.
there was like I remember seeing like the Joe Jusko, I think his name is. Those were like the more painterly style, more realized. But
I
I didn't
feel
know. I
like
was like,
the
oh,
Hildebrandt brothers also were like big names in like the card art
okay. But
sector.
apparently, I was looking at a book when I was on Amazon the other day, and like Jim Lee did a set of cards, like where he did all the cards for
Oh
all the
damn,
characters
that's
that I
awesome.
didn't even know about. Like, I it, I bet if you saw one, you would remember it, but you probably didn't know it was like a whole set of cards.
Yeah,
Like
definitely
the
not.
border, you would see it and you'd be like, "Oh yeah, I've seen these before for sure."
Hmm.
But yeah, I didn't know he did a whole listing of cards. So, um, yeah, dude, X Men are just mm, that era of X Men. I mean, I'd say up to like we're really like focused on the '90s. I'm not even like when I got in like oh, you had that whole Utopia era, and then it went into like Wolverine and the X Men, and it went into a different Uncanny X Men book. And I enjoyed that stuff. You know, I enjoyed a lot of the X Men stuff. Pretty much up until kind of like Avengers versus X Men. That's where I kind of started falling off a little bit. But yeah, I don't know.
So for me, um, hold on.
You're good.
Keep talking. Keep
What else
talking.
do I? Well, you talked about X
Sorry, I
Men
need to
number
find
one.
one thing. I just thought of
Now
something
you're
that I
good.
wanted to touch on, but I don't want to say the wrong date.
I mean, in closing for me is just like I know even if it's hard to necessarily go back and like I know it's hard for some people to go back and read older material. I highly recommend you go back and read Chris Claremont X-Men if you are a really big X-Men fan to see some of the early origins of these characters. I'm thinking like the Hellfire Club is introduced in these issues, the Claremont run. You have the Dark Phoenix saga, which is like you could read that as just a standalone book if you're a fan of X Men. Um, the rebirth of Phoenix. There's just so much ground that is covered by Claremont and the X Men number one that Dave was talking about. I mean, I have the 20th anniversary reprint edition here that I have where they recolored the book.
Why? Why?
Read.
You could get 5 copies of that for
I
almost
have
nothing.
I have 5 copies of it.
Then why did you?
Probably in a box over there because it was recolored, dude, and retouched up. That looks amazing. But those first 6 issues, if you want to talk about that quintessential '90s period, I think it's called Deadly Genesis is the trade. Get that and at least just try that because that's the first 6 issues with the of the Jim Lee art and the Chris Claremont team, and it is a fantastic story about Magneto and his acolytes and all that stuff. And
There's a lot
nuclear
of that's
war.
another thing
There's a
too,
lot of
like
ground that's covered.
Magneto on Asteroid M
Yes.
in the 90s and like everything with the acolytes. Mm. So the
Yeah.
couple of things that I wanted to touch on, and then I'll wrap it up and we'll move on because I know we've been going for a while now about the X-Men. Um, death then death was a little more permanent. Jean Grey dead for a really long time, and I will admit I was a fan of the Scott and Emma dynamic. Big fan. That's not the one I'm talking about though.
Oh,
She
I know which
died
one you're
then.
talking
She
about.
died then. She died again later.
Yeah.
Um, Colossus,
I knew you were gonna go
because
there.
he's my favorite X Man. The Legacy Virus. Do you remember how he died? Why he died? Do
he
you remember anything that
he
happened with that? Were you reading then? I don't know if you were reading then.
I wasn't reading, but he injected himself with the legacy virus because he wasn't he the only one that could handle the cure because he could turn into metal or something like that.
No.
And no, okay.
No.
I don't remember then.
So it was kind of hokey. Um, the reason why he was so invested in curing this was because Ilyana had already gotten the legacy virus and died. His sister was
Yes.
dead. For whatever reason, I guess the reason being to advance the plot. The only way the legacy virus could be cured would be after the cure took the life of a mutant, and that would release it. It would become like an airborne cure or something.
Okay.
So Peter sacrificed himself to save the rest of mutant kind. And everything, the legacy virus really, that started for me, that kind of started the downturn when they got down to like there's only 200 mutants left and like everything was so dire. And then that led into a lot of the stuff with the Inhumans. I think
Mm.
really, so Colossus's death was in 2001.
Ooh, it was that late? I did not know it was
Yeah,
that late.
it was that late. In 2000, the first X-Men live action movie came out. 2001, Colossus died. And then while some good things happened in the 2010s, I feel like the legacy virus, it started a bit of a roller coaster for the X-Men. And I think that is a good place for us to leave the conversation today. And we'll come back to this in 2 weeks because there's more to talk about and it's not all good.
It's time for It's time for the news. Matt, because Dave doesn't really pay attention to this.
So just some quick news this week. Don't really have a whole lot, but
Yeah, man, I don't
um,
have any news either. Sorry.
that's fine. No, continuing off our conversation 2 weeks ago, I believe, about important women in comics. I don't know if you saw that Rachel Pollack recently passed away.
I did not.
She was the one that did the Doom Patrol that you said you might check out at some point. But
Yeah,
yeah, she recently passed away
that's sad
uh,
news, man.
after dealing with a very long illness, I believe, something that she was enduring for a long time. So just, sad news. And we've lost another important comic book creator, but definitely wanted to note and mention that at least at the top. So I guess on to some other more fun, well, definitely more fun than that. But there was a recent Star Wars celebration. If you are big into Star Wars, they announced three more movies.
I heard
They're
Ray's
also
coming back.
they're bringing back Rey for an additional movie. She will be rebuilding the Jedi Order.
Thank
See
God,
how
dude.
that
All I want
goes,
is a bunch of Jedi's fighting the Sith and good lightsaber battles.
right?
It's so easy to make a good Star Wars movie. Literally, we all want the same thing. The only people that don't are the people that own Star Wars.
It's like the cool thing about Star Wars, yeah.
Yeah.
So, the thing that I'm kind of excited about, I mean, I'm kind of off Star Wars, but the Ahsoka show looks kind of cool with our one friend's really big on it, and he was like, "Did you check out this trailer?" And I'm like, "Nah, man, Star Wars is dead." And I watched it, and I was like, "That looks pretty cool."
Dude,
So
this season
there,
of Mandalorian's really good too. Mandalorian's good. Mandalorian's good Star Wars content, in my opinion.
I'll check it out. I'll
I
check
really
it
like
out.
it. There's the
I like
most
the first
recent
two seasons a
episode.
lot.
This isn't a spoiler, but a lot of the themes of this season have to do with what happened to the Empire after Return of the Jedi and before the New Republic turned into what the New Republic turned into. And there's some interesting stuff about like rehabilitating people that were a part of the Empire and like the people that like someone that just worked on a Star Destroyer. Like what happens to that guy? Well, he gets
No, that's a good
absorbed into the New
story.
Republic, and and like there's one episode where they go to this planet where there are some Mandalorians stationed or staying there or whatever, and this planet is run by a dude that was part of the Empire who's been rehabbed, and now he runs this planet. Part of his rehabilitation is he's not allowed to have guns, and no one there can have guns, but their entire society functions because they have all of these reprogrammed like battle droids and like other droids that served the Empire that do all of their stuff. Like they cook and they like handle the trash and like they do all of the like all the menial jobs are done by reprogrammed Empire bots and droids. It's really cool to see stuff like that. They're filling in some interesting story gaps between the movies, between the trilogies, really, which I thought was cool.
I trust your opinion, so I'll give it a shot. It's just I've been burned so many times. And I
I
love
know.
the Mandalorian. I love the Mandalorian before. So like that
Yeah.
that is out of all of this, that is the one thing I actually liked.
Yeah, I
But
didn't like Boba Fett. I liked the episodes that Mandalorian was
that's
in.
what broke me, dude. That's what
Yeah,
yeah.
Boba Fett
That
was rough.
you told
Uh,
me that you're like Boba Fett, watch 5 and 6. Those are the ones I watched. And I was
mhm.
like, these are fantastic.
Yep.
Didn't watch the rest of it. I was like,
Obi-Wan, didn't love it.
okay. All right. Well, all right. I'll give it a shot then. I'll get back. I didn't like celebrity cameos in my Star Wars too. That throws me off and takes me out of the experience. And that happened in the Mandalorian recently, and I'm like, oh, we're doing this now. So that
I
also kind
mean,
of
what's wrong with that?
let's talk. We'll talk about it offline. Um,
I mean, Adam Driver is a very famous celebrity, and he was the main
yeah,
villain in a whole trilogy. So, like, where do we draw the line here on celebrities? Like, actors act, dude. That's what they get paid to do. You can't fill
I
every
would
role
get
with some nobody off the street that no one's ever fucking heard of.
Adam Driver is not Jack Black. You can't just because he might be famous and what Pretty Little Liars or whatever that is. That's not Jack Black, dude. That's not
Bro,
Lizzo.
are you not
That's
aware that, like, 75% of the women in this country want to fuck Adam Driver? He is
that's
incredibly
fine.
famous. Incredibly famous.
That's fine. That's 75%. This is where we have differing
Did you
views, Dave.
did you know that
Yes,
Lizzo is a lifelong Star Wars fan? That she actually cried when she got offered that role because she loves Star Wars so much?
that's great. Great for Lizzo.
So what's the problem?
So I can't have my own personal opinion.
You can. I just don't understand it. I'm trying to understand it. What's the problem with it?
My personal opinion, or I do not like celebrities in my Star Wars like that. And then you're like, well, Adam Driver, 75% of the women want to fuck him. Well, that's great. I'm just saying, what,
What makes it a celebrity cameo? I just don't understand why it's
dude,
considered
Lizzo
a
is
celebrity
ultra famous.
cameo.
Jack Black is ultra famous.
Jack
Lizzo is
Black has been
ultra
in movies for
famous.
a very long time and is actually
I
a good
know.
actor.
That's fine. I'm glad you enjoy it. I just told you I'm going to give it a try. Christopher Lloyd is also in. He's also in the Mandalorian now as
Mm-hmm.
well too.
Mm-hmm. Actors act, bro. I don't know what you want.
Sure, man.
I guess they should only cast people in Star Wars movies that you've never heard of to make the nerds happy. Like I don't get it.
I guess I'm just one of those nerds, Dave. I'm sorry.
I didn't have to apologize. You're entitled to your
No,
opinion. I'm just,
no,
I don't
I
understand
offer
it.
my opinion and I get you jump down my throat about it.
Yeah, because who cares? Like, who
That's
cares?
that's that's your laissez-faire, who cares mentality. I don't know.
Dude, Pedro
That's
Pascal is he's a superstar.
yeah.
It's okay that
I
he
like
plays the main character of The Mandalorian.
I liked it a lot better when he had his mask on. You didn't see his face.
His mask is on all the
I
time.
know. He took his mask off though, but I liked it a
He
lot
did
better when
one
he
time.
and it was his voice.
Okay.
It's fine, dude. You can
Mm.
you can have your opinion. I can have mine.
It's okay
That's
that
fine. I'm
Harrison
glad you're.
Ford played Han Solo, right?
Oh my god, dude. Yes,
Right?
it's fine.
Oh, okay. I
He
mean,
was a he was
he's a really famous celebrity.
Harrison Ford when they cast him was not the Harrison Ford like of now and today. He was in American Graffiti and some other movies, but
Yeah,
he
yeah, no,
was
I know.
not
But then he
Air
came back and
Force
played
One
Han
Harrison
Solo.
for sure. In the role that he was originally
Okay.
entitled.
Okay, but he's still ultra famous. I'm just trying to figure out where the
That's
line is.
that's you have more credibility with your Lizzo and Adam Driver line than that. That's completely asinine. He was in the original. He's one of the original cast members, dude. Like that's completely asinine. I'll give you Adam Driver and every woman in the world wants to have sex with him. I guess we're in the 25% in this household because my wife didn't know who the hell he was at all. So once again, we're welcome to minority land, which population me and I'm okay with it. So it's fine.
You know how
Thanks
like
for getting.
every episode you wind me up.
Yeah.
This is episode number 51, and I finally got you.
No, dude, it's fine, man. It's
I
fine. I'm
finally got
happy.
you ranting and raving
I'm
and wound up.
happy.
You look
I'm
like me
happy.
now.
I'm happy you're happy. That's all that matters. I'll
I'm
be in my corner with my old Star Wars and I'll love it and I'll be happy and we're good to go. It's fine. I'm glad. I'm not gonna get mad at anyone. It's just not for me.
I'm not mad at you.
I don't know. You sound like you're kind of mad at me because actors act, bro. Actors act.
I mean, they do.
All right. Well, we'll never talk about Star Wars again on this podcast.
I actually
So
think we should definitely talk about Star Wars again based on how
no,
that
because
just went.
we shouldn't talk about Star Wars. We shouldn't do that.
I really think we
So,
should.
uh-uh.
I really think we
It's
should.
just
I
going
want
to be
to.
you screaming at me, and I'm just going to be like, "Well, I like how it was old back in the old days." You're just going to scream at me, and then that's how it's going to work.
Yeah, I'm the voice for change.
That's fine, and that's fine. I'm the voice of the old head, bitter Star Wars people. I don't know, and I'm not even that way because I did like. F it, we're going to go into it. I like the original. I like the Force Awakens, dude. They
So do
lost the
I.
plot. Star Wars lost the plot. That's the problem. They lost the plot.
I mean, the Ryan
The,
Johnson movie was terrible.
and
Terrible.
it's just been off track ever since.
Oh yeah,
And
I agree.
I just can't get over it. Like I cannot get how you have a multi-billion-dollar property and you have literally no plan with that property and you just do the most foolish, reckless decisions with that property. I just can't get over it, dude. It like breaks my brain. And I really do love the Mandalorian. I love the Mandalorian first two seasons. Thought they were great. I'll give the third a shot. I really will. But it's just it reeks of more Disney stuff, and I don't like it. They just ruin stuff, in my opinion. So
I agree, but it's not
fine.
Lizzo and Jack Black's fault.
No, they should I'd take the bag too. I absolutely would take the bag, but it's a symptom of the
You
problem.
really think Lizzo did that for money?
I'm sure she
Lifelong
didn't.
Star Wars fan,
I'm
and
sure
you
she
get
didn't do
offered
it
a
pro
role in
bono.
Star Wars?
I'm sure she didn't do it for free, dude.
I'm sure she didn't do it for free, but she's not hurting for money. She didn't do it
No, I don't
because
think
she
she's hurting
needed
for
money.
either. I don't think she's hurting for money, but she's going to take a bag to be in Star Wars as a lifelong Star Wars fan.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know.
You're okay with Donald Glover in Solo, right?
Yeah, he was fine.
Okay. Super famous guy, also a rapper. It's kind of like Lizzo.
He also was a really good casting and a method actor and played that character and did him a lot of justice. I don't know. He was very good in that role.
Yeah, no, I agree. You didn't watch that episode of The Mandalorian yet, though, right?
I did not.
Okay, so you don't know
that's why
how
I'm
well she
reserving my
did.
judgment. I've seen clips of it.
I thought she did
So-
great.
That's fine.
We can move on.
Did you get what you wanted from that segment?
Oh yeah, I did.
Okay, great.
And
All
then
right,
some.
next. Great. Moving on. Did you watch the Mario Brothers movie? Oh,
So Saturday, um,
well, a deep side.
yeah, Saturday, my band started tracking some new songs. So we got to the studio around noon, and the plan was we'd be finished up probably around 5 or 6. Um, so we weren't, and we weren't gonna be done. Dude, it turned into like a very long day. Like we were there until 11, 11:30. It was a 12-hour day in the studio. So I had to refund the tickets. We have not gone to see Mario Brothers yet.
I thought you were gonna be like, and I still made it.
No, dude. The movies were for showing at 7:50 p.m. There was no way in hell we were gonna make it. I mean, it was like the day went so off the rails. Like my girlfriend had to drive over to my house, feed my dog, and let her out. And like she even hung out for a while because I was like, well, I won't be much longer. Like you can hang out, and then I'll see you when I get home. And nope.
3 hours
She
later.
had to go home before I even got back. This is just off the rails, dude. From the jump, the day was chalked. So yeah, no, we did. And then we were like, maybe we'll go on Sunday. Then I was like, no, can't go Sunday. That every family in America is gonna be like, how do we shut these kids up? Take them to Mario Brothers. Movie's gonna be packed. Couldn't do it. Sorry. I know I listened to last week's episode this morning on my drive to work, and I was like, ooh, I'm gonna hear about this later.
It's fine, man. It's fine. Just the highest grossing animated movie of all time now. So it's awesome. I want to see it at some point. But
I cannot believe that it already beat Frozen. Like in a weekend. Like how's that possible? Is it just opening weekend gross or like total gross? It would have to be opening weekend, I think.
That's a great question. I did not get that.
Because I think I saw the tweet you're
I feel
talking
like
of,
yeah.
and I didn't dig into it, but it feels like that has to be opening weekend stats.
Yeah, you just check Frozen. Was it? It's like Frozen 2, wasn't it? Or
Yeah,
whatever.
I think it was Frozen 2.
But whatever.
Like you're not beating Disney animation in a weekend because Disney is power and
Dude,
longevity.
Mario is power and longevity.
Is he? We don't know if he's longevity yet. Not when it comes to films.
Not yet.
Well, a lot of people didn't. A lot of people were talking pretty bad about the movie.
They're just saying it kind of has like no plot and it's just kind of all over the place.
Dude, they all got voices now. Like whatever, I don't care. They're having conversations. Like I'm interested in that. Who cares what the plot is?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely not. Frozen 2. This is just a wiki. Box office 1.45 billion, so it's definitely opening weekend.
Yeah.
So yeah, good luck with that. That's a bit of an uphill climb. But we'll see where it gets. I don't even know if it'll make $1 billion, but I mean that's still a very successful opening.
I mean, I guess it depends on how the worldwide release goes. You know.
Yeah, it hasn't even released in China yet, I feel like, so that'll be another big.
It might not release in China. China has such strict laws for movie releases. A lot of stuff can't get released there because of certain things that are done and said. It doesn't pass the censors.
Is he wearing a Taiwan jacket like Top Gun Maverick?
I don't know.
It's just like Mario, bro.
Who knows? There could be like one joke that gets misinterpreted by Chinese censors, and they just go, "No, you can't release it here." It's very strict.
The most important piece of news: I dabbled on Comixology this week.
So did I.
There's now the ability. Did you see?
I saw.
To put multiple books in one cart and purchase them at one time.
I saw.
The fact that it's in beta mode now. Something we could do for years, but now it's finally in beta.
Yeah,
and listen, Dave.
The cart icon is so janky looking. And it's not your Amazon cart. So it's like this weird sub cart that's below the top nav on the website. Dude, it sucks, but it's something.
They're listening, Dave. They're listening to this podcast.
Amazon I don't know if we can take credit for this, but Now, if
But
only they'll let me archive books permanently within my library and then let me sort by alphabet, we might be set.
we might be back. We're holding out for Global Comics. That's our company, right? They
That's
gotta
what we need.
deliver.
Yeah, global
That's what
global
we need. Global
comics.
Comics has gotta deliver.
When they retweeted you, they did say that it will be a usable interface. It'll be good. I think it was slightly tinged with sarcasm, but that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's okay. We'll
I think
take
you want
it.
to take
We'll
an issue
take.
to your comment, but
That's fine.
that's
That's
okay
fine.
with
We'll
me.
take it. All right, that's all the news I have.
All right. Matt, I've got bad news. I've only played Apex Legends since last week, and I haven't read a damn thing. Like, not even a single. Actually, that's not true. I read one issue of Captain Marvel in the last week. It's not worth talking about. You're gonna have to come. You're gonna have to come and save me this week on the reading and playing, or just the reading. I don't know.
Luckily, I've read some things. Playing Call of Duty campaign. Dave, make sure you play it at some point. Just play the campaign. I know you hate the multiplayer. Campaign's really good.
I do want to. I still have to play the campaign for Modern Warfare.
That one's you want to play that one first because there's a
Yeah,
lot of continuation.
yeah. Like I just don't have the time.
Yeah,
Those are like,
but
how long are the campaigns? Like 8-10 hours.
yeah, probably.
That's a lot. That's a commitment, man.
Yeah, recruit. Put it on recruit difficulty. Just speed through it.
Dude, that's 10
The
hours.
cutscenes,
I could
though.
be grinding on Apex, dude.
I
The
mean, that's
rank
what you can do
split
with
just
everything.
reset.
Though.
I'm back to grinding in rank now on BR now. I'm not in mixtape anymore.
Gun game. That's everything. You can grind Apex and everything. All right, so I've kind of been caught up in the whole like Keanu Reeves renaissance with John Wick and all that stuff. So
Okay.
I finally started reading my issues of Berserker, his comic book. It's just a mindless 80s comic book, very violent, but has a little bit of a story.
I'm
Not
not
like a
surprised to
huge
hear that.
yeah. Not like a huge spoiler, but he's just like this warrior that has like been here through the existence of time and has kind of always been around. And honestly, now that I say it, it kind of sounds like the old guard a little bit.
It also sounds like
Like,
Eternal Warrior from Valiant Comics.
yeah, he kind of looks like the Eternal Warrior now
He
that
sure
you say
does.
that. But the thing is, this comic comes out once a month. Eternal Warrior will see you in 2 years with Liza, that Valiant publishing schedule. But
Who
if it
knows?
ever comes out,
Dude, I got Exo Manowar #1 this week.
when was it solicited? Last
November?
year?
December? Who
That's not
knows?
too bad. That's not too bad.
It was 4 months
Right on
ago.
It's right on. We're getting there. We're catching up.
I'm not going to read it. I have to wait till all 4 issues come out since it's bi-monthly ish.
Yeah.
It's going to take them 8 months to finish this comic. Like, it's going to be December before issue 4 comes out. Right? Right?
Yeah.
No. April was issue 1. June, August. October.
That's if
will
their
be
scheduling's online.
Issue 4. Yeah. I can't. Valiant, please. I just want to read your stupid comic books.
Well, you got to.
I might be the only one.
You might be.
It's not a joke. I might actually be the only one.
I think there might be 100 of you guys.
I saw the ones that listened to our episode about Valiant.
Pretty much. I tweeted you something this morning, and you
did. I loved it.
Retweeted back. I'm not gonna go into it. You know my love for Power Rangers.
You don't know my love for Dan Mora, though.
I didn't know you were a Dan Mora guy.
He's one of the few artists that I follow on Instagram.
Really?
Him, Otley, a couple others. Fiona Staples, obviously. She never posts anything.
Once again, man, it delivers the Dan Mora.
Yeah, I'll get
art.
that. I'll get that in trade when it's wrapped up.
Yeah. I can't. I'm gonna reread the single issues, and I never do that. When the 5th one comes out, that's 4. 5 is coming out hopefully soon.
That was,
okay.
by the way, for those that don't watch on YouTube, that was
Yeah.
Power Rangers versus TMNT or whatever.
So there was some slander thrown my way even earlier in the show. We're not even going to mention the Star Wars talk. I was ridiculed and somewhat attacked for buying an X-Men facsimile edition.
You're
Bought
gonna get
another
you're
fax.
gonna get attacked for every facsimile edition you buy from here until the end of time.
So I went to the comic store this week, and I've made a new pledge that every week I'm going to try to grab something out of the bin and not purchase a facsimile and purchase an original comic.
Ooh, okay. I like
So I
this.
just have randomly started grabbing issues. So I have
Okay.
this one that I don't know if you've read. This is Nightwing number 41.
What bin was this in? A dollar bin?
I paid $2 for it.
Okay.
It's a bold new era for Nightwing. Long story short, he comes.
Which
I don't know
Nightwing
what.
number 41 is this? Is this like
This
the
is
OG
Nightwing. This is
41?
Dixon. Yep, this is Chuck
Oh,
Dixon and Greg
okay.
Land, like
Okay.
stuff that you're reading. So I was like, I had two questions. Like, apparently he had some kind of sickness. Was he a part of this whole contagion thing? Was Nightwing
He didn't
infected?
get infected though. Tim Drake got
Okay,
infected.
okay. So there's something about him having a sickness, and he goes back to pass his law enforcement exam to become a cop.
What?
But
He got
yeah, he was
sick
like
so he wanted to be a cop?
he was in the academy before apparently, and he got sick. So then he's like the
Oh.
the commanding officer was just like, well, you were out on leave, like you got to take all these tests and go through the physical and do everything. So then he becomes a cop after this.
Okay.
But there's an introduction of, I think the character's name is Nightwing, but he's I'm gonna pull it up. Sorry, video listeners. I don't know if you can see this, Dave.
Video
Do you
listeners.
know
That's
this? Do you know this guy? That apparently
No.
he's like Dark Nightwing or something.
You're giving me way
I
too
don't
much credit for reading DC Comics, dude.
Okay, I mean,
If
this
that's
is
if
kind
it
of
wasn't if it wasn't a Nightwing comic that was literally tagged on the top as part of those crossovers that I'm reading,
oh, you didn't
I
read
did
them?
not read it.
Okay,
Did not
I
read.
en- I enjoyed that little ditty by Mr. Dixon and Greg
Dark
Land.
Nightwing, huh?
Dark Knight.
It's
It's
a bit
like
of
an
a
evil
double
Nightwing.
negative, no?
Yeah, it's true. The last issue you might have read. Also, I got another issue, little ditty. This is Batman Detective Comics 684.
I don't know if I read that one or not. Doesn't who knows, man? I've read a lot of comics in my years.
So this story, the Penguin wants to do. This is the one I kind of did a little breakdown, but the Penguin wants to do a heist, and for some reason they think Batman will not. If they do this heist in broad daylight, they're going to do it broad daylight at this like World's Fair kind of thing. Batman will not show up because it's in the brightness, and it's in like this like dome thing for this fair. So what they're going to do, they're going to hide a bunch of goons in this massive penguin. It's like a flower city thing. So it's like a flowered penguin thing. And they cart this thing in like Trojan horse style. And that's the plan that they're going to do this whole heist. Little do they know that Batman is interrogating this guy in a morgue. And he's got him in like one of these morgue slots. And he's trying to get him to talk. And every day he's like, all right, now going to talk. Slams the guy back in the thing and takes off.
It's incredible.
So incredible. So finally, the guy's putting on a tough act and he breaks one day and he gives Batman what's kind of going to go on with this whole heist. Black Mask. I'm not reading this comic regularly, so I don't know the whole Black Mask angle. But a guy flicks a cigar at his head and tells him to get a paper route Blackie, and I was a little triggered by that language, but that's okay.
Who wrote this comic book? Is it Denny O'Neil?
Chuck Dixon.
Okay.
Old Chuck Dixon.
Chuck. Come on,
old Chuck.
Chuck's. You know what? Knowing what I know about Chuck now, I think I think he probably didn't mean that the way you took it.
But that was just like a little interlude. But they're at this whole World's Fair thing, and these goons pop out, and they're like, "It was worth sitting in that freaking bed for some cold sandwiches." And they show up, and little do they know, there's a retractable roof on this dome, so it turns black, and Batman just beats the crap out of these guys, and that was thoroughly enjoyable. Just always Batman beating up some goons. And then at the end, Batman goes to the Iceberg Lounge, finds the Penguin, is going to arrest him, but one of his goons, the Penguin's goons, Mr. McCabe, the Penguin mind controls him, so to speak, to take the fall for the Penguin. And it's just like he's like, I'm
Oh, he
here
did
for a
his little like
citizen's
he
arrest.
twist his umbrella thing in a circle to hypnotize him.
No, he didn't do that. He just
Oh.
pretty much like intimidated him. Was like, you're gonna take the fall for this. And
So
he's
not
like,
mind control at all.
not like a literal, yeah, not like Batman, not Batman Returns mind control with the umbrella, but
Well, that's the
he's
thing.
just-
That's what like didn't Penguin do that in
Yeah, he did do
the
that.
TV
Yeah.
show in the 60s or whatever?
yeah, yeah. He's actually his mind control is with a gun. He has a gun to the guy's head, and he's just like, I'm here for a citizen's arrest, Batman, and like, Mr. McCabe, you did this, and was pretty much just like, you're gonna make a confession, right? And he's like, yes, I'm gonna make a confession, and that was it. That was that Batman issue.
How much did that one cost you? $2?
$2. $2.
Okay.
So I kind of enjoyed these little. That one was kind of more of like a self-contained story. Just the Batman was just like kind of
Yeah.
a little one-shot.
A lot of detective was like that.
I might.
There's a lot of
start picking up some
self-contained stuff in detective, especially in that time period.
I might pick up Detective. I actually enjoyed it. I liked looking
if it wasn't crossing over with a big like bat story that spanned multiple books, Detective was either like one-offs or 2 or 3 issue stories max.
Okay. Well, I think I might get the next issue of Detective for next week. We can read that again too.
All right.
But
We
I
got
had
a lot of
fun.
reading to do before next week.
I do. We'll
We
get it
both
done,
do.
though.
We got
We'll
a
get
lot
it
of
done.
Invincible to read.
We'll get it done.
Oh, we definitely will get it done.
That's all I had.
All right. I'm sorry I didn't have more to talk about for reading and playing. It's just been life's got me down, man. It's beating me down right now.
Life's about to get me down next week. I have a feeling, so we'll see.
Yeah, you know what? We're gonna be there will probably be a couple fill-in episodes at some point in the near future as Matt and his wife add one to the family. About to go +1. Gonna level it up.
Level up.
So if you want to level up your podcasting experiences, dear listeners, viewers, share us with a friend. Tell people about our podcast. If they like comic books or video games, just show us to them, or tweet about us, put us on your Instagram story. I don't know, help the reach a little bit. We'd appreciate it. I won't belabor the point. This doesn't have to be a long. I'm not going to beat y'all down this week. Just check us out. Well, I guess you already have if you're hearing this. Have someone else check us out. Matt, I had a fun time talking about X-Men this week. I'm glad you had the idea.
No problem. Anytime.
Sorry I beat you up about Star Wars.
It's okay.
Okay,
It's
good.
all right.
Someday we're going to do a Star Wars episode.
No, we're not. It's not
Yes,
good
we
for
are.
my health. It's not good for
No,
my
we're going to
health.
do it. We're going to do it.
No.
We're going to do it. All right. Well, until then, my name's Dave.
I'm Matt.
Take care of yourselves, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.